All right, so I see a lot of new people joining us, so welcome. And just want to give a brief introduction to BrainX Community. BrainX Community started 6 years ago. We started this platform with the idea that there was a great opportunity to have a platform for machine learning or AI in healthcare for good. We have had 6 very successful years, grown to be a 6,000 plus member international community with 3,000 plus members just on LinkedIn, a very active LinkedIn group where we share a lot of resources too. We have, of course, our website, which has a whole host of resources for you. And then we do these live sessions, bringing everyone together, the experts over here, so that we can all learn from each other. So a lot of scholarly activity that is shared over here. Just going to go through some of the components of BrainX community to familiarize yourself with the resources, which ties into today's presentation later on too. So this is our website. You can see latest updates right on our homepage. This is our Connect segment where we make announcements about our next webinar. And we also provide links to the YouTube channel and the recording in case you miss it. In case you miss it and you don't want to miss it, you should subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get the recording available to your email address as soon as it's finalized over there. As I mentioned, a very active LinkedIn group with the same name as BrainX Community. A lot of scholarly activities, a lot of work that is shared over there, and a lot of information about conferences and other things that are shared over there. Of course, there are so many publications these days related to AI and healthcare, so we actually curate those for you. We provide a list of curated articles, journals, books, and courses, so you can decide based on your specialty or in general, go through these publications or these opportunities to learn more. And this year on, we have been having the large language models also featured because there are a lot of publication, a lot of resources growing in that space. We provide the largest repository of links to open source data sets. So if you're looking for open source data sets to practice, to develop something, links to these data sets, which are open source, so they require minimal data use agreement for research purpose. They are all available over there with some snippets about what's in that. And again, you can filter right through our data sub section of the web page and get access to the specialty of your choice. We have our podcast series where you can listen to some of the people who have been working in this area. It could be clinicians, it could be the AI experts who have been working in healthcare. You can listen to their journey, you can learn from them through their journey. You can hear about their vision for the future right through our podcast series. So subscribe BrainX Talks on your favorite podcast medium, and you can listen to these conversations. And of course, meetings and conferences are great opportunities to present your work, to meet with other people, and you want to know where to go next. And we'll talk about that a little bit in our later presentation too. And we provide you with a curated list of these meetings and conferences, which are specifically focused on AI and healthcare. And additional tools and frameworks for your AI and healthcare journey are provided through our website too. The most important question is something that we're going to tackle today, and we are lucky to have some of the big names for AI in healthcare over here. We have Samir Shaikh, Amit Kumar Day is going to be joining us shortly, Dr. Anirban Bhattacharyya, and Dr. Avneesh Khare. So these are people that I follow because I learn a lot from them. They have developed a lot of resources. They have a lot of experience with this and we can all learn from them. But I think we would agree that a lot of us get asked this common question about how do we get started with AI in healthcare? And that's the key question that we're going to try to address through this webinar and get their thoughts on this too. This is the framework that we will use to drive this. This is a recent publication, Dr. Khare and myself, we worked with, and I want to highlight this with a couple of our interns from BrainX AI Research, Hajra Arshad and Rachel Grasfield, and of course, a lot of our colleagues to write this publication, and you can get this publication right through our website, brainxai.org, about how to get started with this. That's one of the most common questions that we encounter when clinicians are asking us, like, how did you get started? How can I get started? And of course, everybody has a different goal and a different pathway that they want to get started with. What's important also is asking the question, why do you want to get started with AI in healthcare? So here are some data points, because of course, if you are looking to get engaged with AI, you are very data driven. So look at this. This is what our patients are asking for. 80% of Americans, so this is an American survey that was done, and that's what they're expecting. They're expecting that AI will improve patient care. 25% of Americans are more likely to talk to chatbot instead of attending a therapy. Imagine that. So it's a quarter of patients. That's a big number and growing number. And then on the flip side, if you're not using it, then 25% are saying that they don't want to attend don't want to see a physician or a clinician who doesn't use AI. So if you're not data driven, if you're not using this advanced science, a lot of patients may not want it. What about the clinicians? It's the same. 95% of clinicians have a very positive perspective about AI. They are actually looking forward to using AI and solving some of the challenging healthcare problems. 50% have expressed interest, and I understand a lot of you are here because of the same interest in this. And 10% are already using AI in healthcare. So I probably would guess that a lot of these 10% are radiologists, because they have the most tools that are in application currently in healthcare. So probably a lot of them are those. And it's not just general AI, but the whole landscape changed with generative AI. So you look at what general public and what clinicians are expecting from generative AI. There are big expectations. I'm sure a lot of you are already using generative AI chatbots such as ChatGPT and other things in your phases of life. So let's get this conversation started with this base expectation that patients are wanting it, clinicians, either you or your peers, are wanting to use AI in healthcare. And of course, not just the traditional AI, but also they're looking forward to the newer techniques and tools. So let's start with this question about like goal setting, because the first thing is like, after you address the question of like why AI in healthcare, one of the important questions is like, what's your goal? What do you want to do with this? And that's what we try to address in our publication. A lot of people are looking to just enhance knowledge. A lot of people are looking to do hands-on development. And then there are many people who actually want to start companies based on the concepts that they have, the prompts that they see in day-to-day life. So let's start with Avneesh. I see him on the top of my screen over here. So Avneesh, what was your goal when you started indulging with AI in healthcare?
Uh, Hi, Piyush. Thank you for inviting me to this panel, and it's really great to be discussing our paper. And you have already given like a brief starter as to why we should start learning about AI. So this happened to me like in 2019. Like it's 5 years ago, and that is when I went to Middle East. I was working in India all along, and I was exposed to pen and paper. So when I landed in Middle East, the first thing I encountered was electronic medical records, and then that is when I realized that there's so much of data here, and I think we can use it, we can put it to better use. And that was my personal journey, how it started. I started exploring tools to make use of that data or to get more insights from that data. And my main goal was the first one, which was to enhance knowledge. I wanted to gain more knowledge about AI. I wanted to be able to read the publications which had started to come in different journals. Of course, they were not dedicated journals, but then even in anesthesia journals, I could see some AI papers, and that what got me interested. That's what got me interested. And this is how I started, and I met you, and of course, you guided me, and that is how my journey started. So my goal was one, and then my goal moved on to two. So the important thing to realize is that your goal can be evolving. Like it's not a fixed goal, it's not cast in stone. For most people, it will start with enhancing your knowledge, and then you will move on to hands-on learning, which is how I came in touch with the later learnings, maybe after 1 or 2 years. So my goal is right now is hands-on learning. It has been for the last few years.
Yeah, so I think one of the common things that I feel about the barrier to getting into indulging with AI in healthcare is this barrier of hands-on learning. And people feel intimidated by it. Oh, I will have to learn coding, I'll have to learn programming. But Anirban, you have navigated that very well. And you have been participating in all these datathons. Now you're leading this upcoming datathon. What's your thought about how do you navigate this? How do you overcome this barrier about programming? And we'll get into a little bit more deeper details in a bit, but how do you avoid getting intimidated by this, and how do you approach it? Is it for everyone?
Hi, Piyush. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. So I think this is a question which is one has to understand what their goals are. Again, the article that you guys published, goal setting, that is very important. Why are we doing this? And depending on what your goals are, and if you say that I want to just learn all the technical aspects of it, how does one machine learning algorithm work versus another one, I think you're going to apply you're going to use knowledge differently, you're going to approach the problem differently, versus if you're saying that I really want to develop a patient-centered AI solution, and I really want to see how I can get there. I think that involves a lot more than just programming, understanding machine learning. There's a whole lot of other things like workflow, the commercial aspect of it, and all those kind of things. So, to answer your question, machine learning or programming is just a small part of AI, and one has to know some of it to be able to speak the language as you're collaborating with a team of, I would say, data scientists, with a team of researchers, with a team of implementation scientists, and eventually with administrative and finance people, if you take it that far. But datathons, you brought up datathons. Datathons are not just about learning how to program. It's about how to problem solve in a team, how to do it effectively, how to communicate, how to build teams. There's a lot more going on. And AI, of course, is part of it. I think at the end, it boils down to what we want to do.
Yeah, no, so again, the take-home message that I'm taking from this is don't get intimidated with programming. Get started. And I see, like Avneesh put in the chat, that there are a lot of no-code solutions, so you can start off with those, and we talk about that in our paper too. So don't get intimidated by that. But I actually want to go to Samir Shaikh, because Samir, you started this newsletter, that I follow very closely. It's very well done. We'll show that in a bit too. And you always show some kind of a technique or illustrate a technique in that newsletter. So what was your goal? How did you get started with this?
Hey, Piyush, and everyone else, thank you so much for having me here. It's really an honor to be chatting with you all. I mean, as you all have kind of commented, when you start this journey, one of the biggest limitations is you got to ask yourself, where do I get started, and what is my skill set? I think a lot of us here are probably clinicians, and so it takes a little bit of reflection at the beginning to say, what do I want to do, and what do I really enjoy doing? So when I sat back and started my journey in AI, one of the things I realized I was doing as a clinician already is a lot of education to medical students, to residents, running a simulation program in my hospital. I had some training in education. And so I said, as I started to learn, one of the things we learn in education is to really understand a concept, you have to teach it to others. that's how you strengthen your own neural networks in your brain to really understand the concepts better. And so what I started to do is look for people I could work with to join me on this journey for education. I found a friend of mine who was a computer scientist from Oxford who also had the same passion and same interest to say, let's just do something informally, just get started, and we'll see where this goes. So we started really with the thought of, we like talking to other clinicians. We think this is a big need in the community. And so let's leverage some of the strengths we have and start with something simple. So it started off with just a newsletter. We brainstormed about different topics and areas that we could put and how we could create a curriculum. And then started asking around to others, like people like yourself who are really leaders in this field who've been doing this for so long, to say, you know, what's necessary? What are clinicians asking about? What would be an important topic? Do they want research papers? Do they want to know how to use ChatGPT or make their own GPT? And that started to inform kind of where we went with the newsletter. And so I think one of the most important points when we're talking about this journey is you have to start somewhere. And I think choosing where you start depends on your skill set and what you're passionate about. For me, it was, I love doing education. I love talking to others. So why not take the AI interest I have, make it into a newsletter, make it into a podcast where I can talk to people about it. And truly the only reason it's sustainable is because I love doing that. I love talking to other people like yourself. When, you know, we had you on for Humanly, is like, it was a genuine interest to say, I want to learn about this and have a great conversation. And that's what keeps the interest and the journey going, that passion. So the more you align it with your goals and your interests, I think the more longevity you'll have in this field.
Yeah, that's great. I think one of the things also that has changed recently is our interaction with AI, because previously you had to learn programming, you had to have the knowledge of the equations. Now, ChatGPT, when it came in November 22, provided a platform for public to directly interact, right? So even if you didn't know programming, even if you didn't know, all of a sudden, a lot of people learned these key phrases like prompt engineering, and all of a sudden there is a whole new science around it. There are so many people who are using it and directly interfacing with it. So the important thing is, I think, get started by enhancing your knowledge, and you can always get into deeper details. But I do want to welcome Dr. Amit Kumar Day also over here. uh, Amit, so welcome. And you started Doctors AI. Was it with the idea that you wanted to start commercial venture, or you also wanted to enhance your knowledge? How did you approach your diving into AI in healthcare?
Uh, Hi guys, hi everyone. First of all, thank you, Piyush, for inviting me. It's such an honor and a pleasure to always be in a platform discussing AI with you. And a big congratulations to the BrainXI team for these publications. The paper looks fantastic. Avneesh is here, you're there, Piyush, and to all the authors, big congratulations. So yes, Doctors AI, as you said, I think it's been a journey for about almost a year now for us. And I think we started with a very common vision of creating the AI literacy amongst the ground level clinician who are working with in the ground level of healthcare. Not those people who are into the research. It's the people who are now, of course, the community is bigger, but uh, the whole focus with which we started was with increasing the literacy and making them understand about what AI is and how it is impacting healthcare and it is going to impact healthcare. Well, you said that was it with the intent of starting as a commercial venture? Well, no, and it's still a no. We are non for profit and we will continue to be. The whole focus is going to be pivoting around three verticals, and I think we resonate with BrainXI in most of these verticals. One is, of course, education, increasing the literacy. The second is, of course, research, and I think that wing of Doctors AI is also evolving gradually. We see a lot of maturity in the BrainXI in that research wing, and we are always learning and getting inspired from your community. And the third is, of course, where there is a right place to collaborate with the tech experts and the tech partners who are trying to build healthcare solutions, the right place to collaborate with them, help them bring out a more validated and a more evaluated product into the market that would be more sensibly absorbed and taken by the healthcare providers who are used to use anything which has got evidence and research behind it. So I think these were the three prime focus with which we started Doctors AI, and with everybody's support, down the line, I mean, 8 months or 9 months, Avneesh as a co-founder, I think we've come some way, but we've got a long, long way to go.
Yeah, no, something that you said is very important, and I've been trying to encourage people to think about this aspect of AI in healthcare. So you don't have
Yes.
to necessarily get into programming.
Yes.
You can start with enhancing your knowledge about it. Where we really need a lot of help amongst the clinician community is getting engaged in evaluation and validation. So when we think about any drug or device, there is a huge amount of research work that goes into evaluation and validation of these. It's not just one study, but multiple studies looking at multiple aspects. And as these algorithms become more and more prevalent, I think there is a greater need to assess them, to evaluate them, and validate them. So you can, even if you don't want to learn the programming aspect of AI, having the basic knowledge and getting engaged in that, I think very well said, Amit. I think we need to get more people involved in evaluation and validation. It's also important that we have more people involved in evaluation validation, because with the multidisciplinary focus, with people from different backgrounds, we can actually look at the biases. We can critically examine whether it's the right fit for the patient population or for the task that this AI has been developed, or is it usable for the community that you're looking to serve. So there are a lot of ways to just get started. The most important thing that I hear from everyone is, well, just get started and set your goal. And the goals can be mobile, but the important part of that is get started with it. All right, so let's go to the next question about resources. So a lot of you have developed a lot of resources that are available to us. So once you have the goal, you want to figure out what your resources should be. And in this paper, we talk about, there are a lot of educational resources. I'll show some of the tables that we have in the paper too. Uh, but also surrounding yourself with the smartest. And that's why I decided to surround myself with some of the smartest and follow you guys. And also have some resource allocation and the time commitment, because uh, programming definitely requires a lot of time commitment. Research requires a lot of time commitment. Reading these and staying in tune with a lot of changes and the evolving technology requires time commitment. So, Avnish, how do you approach it? Like, how much time commitment does it require from you? How do you approach the resource part of it? How have you allocated it for yourself?
So, Piyush, I just wish I had 48 hours in a day, not just 24. So, I think that resonates with most of us on this panel and on this call. So, there are a lot of resources out there, and many of them are video resources, YouTube channels, and webinars like this. Then there are a lot of newsletters, which are some of them are very good and they are quite updated, and some are even healthcare focused. One of them, as you mentioned, Shaikh has a very nice newsletter. So I have subscribed to a lot of them, and I always like feel I want to consume this also and this also. So it's like a fight between time allocation. Generative AI especially has come as a lifesaver for me, because now I can consume the same amount of information in a small amount of time, because the summarizing feature, I think that is the most used feature by me for generative AI, not just generation, but summarization. So that is one of the ways how I do it. And second thing is I try to filter the fluff, because there's a lot of things that are quite hypeful, or they are just to get clicks, or they're clickbaity headlines and all those things. So that is my first filter. I don't want to consume content that is like fueling hype or fear. It should be scientific, grounded in scientific principles and from good publications, reputed ones. So that is how a lot of load reduces. But I'm really worried, because it's gradually the output is increasing over time, even from quality publications and videos and communities like this. Uh, I don't have any answer of how I will do it in future, but right now that is how I'm doing. I try to use time as efficiently as I can. I have a separate time dedicated for study in my day, and during that time I'm not doing anything else.
Yeah, I think the amount of resources that are available for AI in healthcare from when I started to now, and I do want to give a special mention to Dr. Anthony Chang and AI Med, because way back when that was the premier resource for me to get started. And they have a conference that is coming up in November. So if you don't know about it, go to our website. You can look at in the conferences. It's coming up. Still time to register, and you can go for that. That's how I got started. But since then, yes, it expanded. But again, that's why we curate this information. That's why Samir does a wonderful job in putting together the newsletter that he does, so you can stay focused on curated information, and not get too dazzled by everything out there. Anirban, you have been traveling a lot, right, with these datathons and hackathons across the world. So how do you manage your resources? And especially you do quite a bit of hands-on programming too, right?
Right. It's a thing I'm learning, Piyush. But when I think of resources, I always look up to people like you who have navigated this journey and guided people like us. But the way I put it is, you have to have three aspects, right? When you look at resources, the number one I call people. So having the right team. I'm not expert at everything. There are certain people who are really good at certain things, and building that team or having that team of people where you can reach out to them to better understand a concept, or collaborate if you guys are building something. So people. Number two is the process. So as Avneesh put very nicely, I think we have a lot of help with processes right now. There are so many resources that we can consume very nicely with generative AI's tools that exist today. All the newsletters that are pretty abundant today. There are good processes in place, and I think you can build a few processes yourself. For example, if you're building, if you're going to do something that you anticipate you're going to do several times, you might as well have a method. For example, if you want to write a grant, and you can use AI to write a grant, right? But you can train an agent, or build an OpenAI app to do that, so that you don't have to keep doing it so many times. So the process part, it takes time initially, but I think in the long run it's going to serve you good. And the last part, when you look at resources, you look at the context of why you're making that, why you're doing it, right? So, for example, in my organization in Mayo Clinic, if I'm doing an internal project, I will try to see what kind of resources are already there inside Mayo, what I can tap into, and thankfully all organizations these days, they have a good amount of resources that we can use. For example, how they have made data marts available publicly. There are good data sources that are there, or literature, for example. There you kind of start having your go-to places where you can know exactly what to get from where, and you keep doing this more number of times. I think it becomes a habit, and you know what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So those would be my thoughts regarding how I approach when I think about resources and how I clock them.
Thank you. Samir, how do you curate your newsletter? Like how do you approach, curation of knowledge so that it's useful to people?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I was just reflecting as I was hearing some of the other speakers talk about time and how it is such a scarce resource. One of the things, again, I think personalization to your lifestyle and to kind of your schedule is so important. So one of the things I do, kind of an example of how you can use these AI tools, like I really like listening to things while I'm doing something else. So for example, I still work clinically. One of the hospitals I drive to is a 30-minute drive. So what I've started to do is, as I start seeing interesting papers, things posted on LinkedIn from people that I trust, I just take it and start putting it into something like Notebook LM. And then when I know I'm going for a drive, I will get that to consolidate into a podcast for me so I can listen for 20 minutes while I'm driving, get the information that I want instead of having to read it separately, and make use of that time. And so I think if you find ways to create those processes that the speakers were talking about in a way that works for you and time that you have, you can maximize those 24 hours as much as possible. I think what we do at the Neural Network is our newsletters are broken down into core concept, research paper, and then interesting tools and tips and tricks. And so again, part of the resources is I rely on my colleague who writes the papers with me, Michael Joel from the UK, and we split it up. So again, if you have a goal of doing something, don't feel like you have to do it all by yourself. And so we've always split up the newsletter to say, I will do this part and you'll do this part, like the core concept. I like doing for our newsletter, because what I do is we've decided a schedule of topics we want to go through. If it's generative AI or types of learning in machine learning, we'll break that down to 4 newsletters. And what I'll do is I'll write the first draft, looking at the resources I have from the courses I've done or things I've read. And then what I will do is send that over to Michael, who is more of a computer scientist, machine learning engineer, who will kind of give it a read through, make some edits, give me some feedback. But I use my clinical hat while writing it. So because my goal is to make sure clinicians understand it, not my audience for that newsletter is not computer scientists who would want much more detail. And so it's that process internally that we create for the different sections. In terms of papers, there's so many out there. And so we try and relate it to the core concept. If we're talking about a type of model, we try and find a paper that uses that model so that, again, from an educational theory perspective, it keeps things flowing. And then we just try and find tips and tricks about, different things physicians or healthcare professionals can use in their daily life. My goal always with the newsletter is that after reading it, you can try something new in the tools that you're using. So the first 10 or 15 episodes, we were just talking about, prompt engineering, things you can do with ChatGPT, for example, since it's so widely applicable. And so I think as long as you narrow down your audience and the voice that you want to have for the product you're building, and then work with a good team that you trust and go back and forth, it makes it more doable and really enjoyable along the way.
Yeah, so I think what I'm hearing from all of you is team. It's don't try to do it alone, and that's what we did with BrainX too, and with our BrainX AI research team, we have a team that works on it, and that's where our interns are awesome. They both learn as they curate our newsletter, and at the same time, their point of views are very important when we incorporate that. So have a team, be part of a community, seek some mentors is what I'm hearing, so that you can be guided, uh, or at least learn different ways to it. But the most important thing I feel is the time commitment. You have to dedicate and allocate it some time of your life, so that you stay in touch, because you can otherwise do it once or twice, but where people falter is not is when they don't adequately give or appropriate some time so that they can have a continuum for themselves. That's one of the, once you get started, you need to have some time allocation to it on a daily or weekly basis for success. All right, going back to this question again, do clinicians need to learn programming? And of course, there are pros and cons that we talk about this in our paper. Let me start with Amit. Amit, what do you think? Do clinicians need to learn programming to get into or indulge in AI in healthcare? How did you think about it?
So the first thing is, for every clinician to get into AI, with my interaction with the clinicians who are naive to AI, that I've realized is that once you're getting started to AI, everybody feels that where is my kick? What is it that excites me about AI? Well, for some people, it's would be how fast I can use it into my day-to-day applications and into my daily productivity to improve my productivity in my 24 hours, how can I improve that? For some would be, how can I improve the outcomes that I deliver for my patients or improve the patient outcomes in my clinical practice? And for some, it might be how I might use certain codings or certain algorithms for improving patient care in the level of research or academic. So I don't think that every clinician starting with AI need to get into programming right away. But at the same time, I am a strong believer and a strong advocate of every clinician understanding the basics of AI. I think every individual must start with the basics of AI, understand the fundamentals. And that's why at Doctors AI, we started an activity called AI Primer in medical colleges, where we are traveling to medical colleges across the country. And we are conducting a 1 to 2 hours of primer, where the basic focus is introducing the concepts, the fundamentals, the terms of artificial intelligence to these medical students, the graduates, the postgraduates, and even the professors and the faculties to start with. Thereafter, I believe every individual is going to choose the way they want AI to impact their lives. Not everyone would want to probably get into programming, learn into coding, or get into no code tools, even create certain things. Most would want to use it, but the important part is everyone should know what they're using it and what does it contain. So I think that is the fundamental that should be rather focused on than pushing individuals to learn more programming or more coding, because I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea. And having said that, doctors, as clinicians, we are there to practice medicine. Engineers are there to code for us. We need to find the right bridge between the two, let our hand out and have them extend their hand out and help out in that bridge. And to build that bridge, the knowledge that is needed, that we must have. There will be a section of us, let's say, if I can give you a ballpark figure of 5 to 10% of us that would go a little extra handed into that bridge and extend that coding and be somewhere in the middle part. But the most of us, 90 to 80 to 85% of us, would be on this side of the bridge, understanding what we are using, what we are consuming. And again, I would, within quotes say, putting that evidence behind everything that we use, that we've been taught to use, since the inception of medicine.
That's great. And that's very well put. Anirban, I want to do a myth buster over here, because there are a lot of people who think that AI is just coding. What I learned was coding is just the expression of the equation, right? The real meat are those equations. I remember doing that, participating in the datathon with you, and we were trying to do this causal inference modeling, and we were looking at those equations and how they align. When you start getting into those equations, they get very complicated, right? I remember, like, at the beginning, I had to go back to my matrices and vectors days, relearn math from scratch. And now when I read these papers, and of course, we have an awesome team at BrainX AI Research with Raghav, Shreya, PhD level AI team members, and we talk about these equations. It's not about programming, right? Or is it? Or is it about understanding those equations that underpin what you're trying to express?
Great question, Piyush. And I don't think there is a right or a wrong answer in this. And the reason I say this is, to each it means something different. Obviously we are all passionate about something, as Amit kind of brought up. To an engineer, my experience is when I've worked with engineers, they may be very passionate about how we can take a complex neural network model and make it more simple, in terms of a neural network architecture. On the other hand, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is an amazing solution that I can bring to the bedside, not thinking so much from a neural network standpoint. For those who think of AI, they think of the solution that excites them, right? So coding, is probably required for all of us in some little fashion, so that we understand, as it's been posted in the chat, so that we understand what they're trying to do, what they're trying to achieve. where are the pitfalls. Matrices, probably I take it as the math behind the coding is probably the step before understanding how to code, right? Before matrices come the concept. And I think we as doctors have to do a very good job of putting out that vision out there. If we're building a patient-centric or healthcare-centric stuff, we have to say, this is our vision, this is what we want to do. I think then it's our job as a physician, as an engineer, to translate that idea or concept to, how one part is the math as we are building it, and then convert that math to equation, which is, in my understanding, it's more of an engineer's job. But if we want to do more of it, absolutely. I think sometimes we get fun doing it, stepping away from our medical roles and doing something exciting. That is a hobby of many of ours, and then putting it back together. So it is. I think some degree of coding is required, some degree of math understanding is required. But again, to each their own. Everybody finds joy. I think at the end of the day, we should just enjoy while we are.
Yeah, that's very well said. And again, something that I caution people with is the techniques and the technology are changing so rapidly that if you think that you can just take one course at one time and then you'll be set for your programming or for some of these techniques, that's not true. So if you really want to take a deeper dive and get into programming and all, understand that it's not just a one time commitment. It's a commitment that you will have to make for every day, or some hours of a day. You will have to constantly do projects, because if you're not doing that, then it's very quickly to fall very easy to fall behind, and you will fall behind very quickly. So before you take that dive, again, go back to your goal, just like Anirban was saying, and the important goal is to have fun, no matter what you do. All right. Let's briefly talk about the courses to take. So I see, Amit, with Doctors AI, you have been championing some of these online courses, and you've been doing certain workshops too. A lot of people think about, like, should I just do some online courses? Do I just need a certificate for something? How do you approach which course? And we do in this publication talk about the different aspects of these courses, but how do you approach, and how do you try to connect it with the people who need to take different courses or levels of courses?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is, as a starter, as someone who is naive to the understandings of uh, the fundamentals of artificial intelligence, I think the first course they should take is a live course. And this is something that we strongly believe, because the interaction that it brings in with the instructors or the course directors or the course faculties kind of stimulates a lot of thought process on which your fundamentals of AI understanding is going to be built on for the rest of your life. So I believe the first few courses, or maybe the first courses, should be a live course. Consume that content as an on the go as well, because most of the courses are also available in a recorded format. That's what we provide from Doctors AI. After the live course, they get a recorded session which is available to consume for them for about a month. Thereafter, it's updation. Now, again, the updation comes in different formats, whether it's the basic updation that you're doing. And I would say there are plenty of free courses which are now available, and also some paid courses, good paid courses are available that individual can go. And that's where you get to consume the content at your convenience. You look at recorded lectures, and you consistently do some pre and post assessment to assess yourself. So that's where your self learning and the self modules are happening. After a certain period of time, when you have consumed the basics of the fundamentals, and you are set to go, and you're really set that, all right, I'm into some projects and I really want to invest some time, energy, and I'm really enthusiastic about doing this. Because again, I keep saying this, uh, doing advanced AI is not everybody's cup of tea, and it doesn't need to be done by everybody. Only if you feel this is your cup of tea and you really want to get into that segment, you can go into some advanced courses, which really involves, teaching you programming, coding, and, some capstone projects that you can work on during the courses. So I think this is how the courses are going to be structured and set as well as we go ahead. We'll have a larger takers of the fundamental course, and then some medium category courses will come that will be updation and bridging the gap. And then you'll have the advanced courses for a few takers. Certification is important. I believe every clinician practicing medicine today should undergo certain category of basic fundamental certification in artificial intelligence. The question that's also there in the chat box is which one? Well, I would say look at what the courses are there to offer you. Look at the agenda, look at the flyer, and see what suits you the best. Look what you're trying to learn from the course. If you are through with the basic of the theories and the fundamentals, then you don't need to take a course that is teaching you the fundamentals. Rather, you go for a course that is teaching you certain bit of a hands-on experience into certain aspects that you can apply. If you are starting very new and you're still naive with the concepts of machine learning, deep learning, and you still don't know which one applies where, and what is a convolutional neural network and just the basics, then you go with certain courses that is teaching you the basics. So I think this is how you choose the course. I will not say this course is the best and that course is not good. I think everybody is trying to deliver the content in their own way. And so far, still today, Piyush, I would say we have so many organizations and so many institutes also coming up with courses, but we still don't have a standard guideline how AI should be taught to clinicians. I think we're still not there yet. So we will be evolving with those standardizations, as AI evolves. So till then, we'll all be trying in our own way to compile the content as instructors, as course directors, and as workshop creators. For the audience and for the participants, they have to choose which one suits their needs and they need to go for it accordingly. I hope that answers.
There is a question in the chat, like where to find info about basic life courses, preferably for free. So again, with a biased point of view, I'll say go to BrainX Community. As I showed you earlier, we list all these courses over there. Follow our newsletter because we talk about the upcoming courses through that. And it also talks about, the different opportunities to interact and present and things. And follow us on our LinkedIn. That's where LinkedIn channel called BrainX Community. We share a lot of information over there. And of course, you can follow a lot of us on LinkedIn and Twitter too, because that's where we share a lot of information about the same. But I want to also ask Avneesh, because if I know of a person who has taken the highest number of courses, and if there could be an award for that and certification, that would be Avneesh, right, Avneesh? So how do you decide about which course to take? You're probably the most experienced person in this. You're on mute. Avneesh, you're on mute.
Oops, sorry. So before that, I just want to address that last question, which you said, the free portion, because that's a big dilemma in people's mind, that whether I should do a free course or a paid course, because there are both kinds of courses available. And a lot of content is available on YouTube also for free. So I also had that feeling, but believe me, if you want to learn something in a proper structured way from quality instructors who have invested their time and effort into learning all these things, then I think if the course fee is nominal, mostly for live courses, at least the target should not be to target free courses, but to target good quality courses from good instructors. So that mistake we should not make, that every free course is good and paid course is not good. And the second thing is that why I have done so much courses is because I want to see what's inside each course. That means more than learning the course, I want to see how it is taught, who is teaching it, whether I'm able to understand as a medical professional or not. So in that process, I have done a lot of courses, and I've learned a lot of things, that how things should be taught to medical professionals, especially. And what I've realized, there are a few key points which you should look when you are searching for courses. First is that if you are starting just in your learning journey, then try to go for a healthcare focused course, which is talking more about healthcare AI, because that is something which you will be able to relate with. If you directly go and start learning some course which is on Python and talking all about engineering use cases, you might find it a bit boring, and you might leave it in between, even if you have paid for it. I know people who enroll for 6 months, 8 months courses right away from big universities, and then in between they just leave it because they can't take it. Second thing is, you should always try to look for certification, as Dr. Amit said, because if you are putting your effort and time into something, learning something, you should at least have sort of a document to add it to your resume, so that you can get into hands-on projects, because that gets you sort of a foot in the door if you are trying to work with someone or with some organization, to show that, okay, beyond medicine I have this skill and this knowledge which I bring to the table. So that is second thing. And third, of course, I address that don't look for entirely free, and of course check out communities and these platforms where people are chatting about it, some forums where you can get idea, so that you don't waste more than, I think, money. I think it's about time. You start a course, you spend your few weeks doing it, and then you realize that no, this was not the right course for me. So I think before that, if you can talk to people who have done that course, maybe that gives you a better idea whether you want to do it or not. So those are my few takeaways of whatever I have done till now.
That's great. I actually want to move on from that to the question in the chat about like list of courses. That's something that we do provide in the publication. Again, this is not exhaustive. We're not saying like this is the best, but these are some examples, some of the courses that we have all taken in the past, and we have enjoyed doing. But specifically, I want to highlight the something that the panelists talked about. One is the datathon. So Anirban, you're organizing this datathon, and you have been very prolific in these datathons. Have won the first prize in some of these datathons recently. And beyond the courses, like how do you decide about datathon? Like when should somebody participate in datathon? Like how do you approach that?
So Piyush, I think datathon should be pretty early on in their AI journey, and the reason is datathon is probably the most interactive way of experiencing what AI and medicine, or technology and medicine put together, can do. And there's this saying which says, you read, you forget, you see. I don't remember what they say with that, but then you do, you definitely remember. And datathon takes it to the realm of you do. Plus, we talked before how datathon builds these teams. Even today, it's the same group of people from 6 years ago that I have ended up communicating with quite a bit and learning from each other. So this causal inference matrices and equations, it's part of a datathon how we learned. It's also part of a datathon that we have gone live with an algorithm last week after 4 years of rigorous development and testing. One of the data scientists did end up making a PhD paper out of it also. So these are kind of budding grounds for something great. I think once you do a datathon, then you understand what you like about the process, what you don't like, and like Avneesh said, then you can venture out into more detailed reading. Like if you like a certain aspect, you go back and read. I do want to add that some kind of formal training, if you are going to pursue this pathway as a serious pathway for you, then some kind of formal training is required. I have gone ahead and done the AI Med board certification, which takes a very good summary of what you study. Besides that, I've also kind of done a master's in clinical informatics because I thought it's not just the AI coding part. There is way more to it. How to take it to the bedside. But I completely agree with all my colleagues here that you start off with something that can build an interest, can grow an interest, and then go deeper into a certain area which you think is your liking.
That's great. Amit, are we going to have some kind of a workshop at the AI and Healthcare Summit in December associated with the conference?
So the AI in Healthcare Summit that we are doing in December is primarily vision to keep the agenda as comprehensive as possible. So our first target is going to be cover all the aspects that AI can impact in healthcare. So we're going to try and keep sessions that covers from A to Z in medicine with speakers across the globe. And we are also trying to be as global as possible, getting speakers from all parts of the globe. So we have a good representation, a global representation. And the first target is, of course, going to be covering all the aspects and show the applications and the nuances of where AI can be used, data science is being used, what are the best applications which are prevalent, have a large discussion set on the use of it, the ethics of it, and so on. We have personally avoided keeping any specific workshop at the summit because I believe workshop needs a lot of dedication in terms of time and energy. And we already have workshops going parallel, before and after the summit. So we are not keeping specific workshops, but I must say, and I'm very happy that we have got a good number of abstracts that has been submitted in the summit. So, and that was fascinating. I was overwhelmed to see a good number of abstracts being presented, being submitted, and a good number of them will also be selected for oral presentation during the summit. So you'll be seeing a lot of actual research is being coming out from researchers and clinicians who are working on AI hands-on in the ground level, and they'll be presenting their research. And we just reopened the late breaking abstract submission from 7th of November, that's today, till 21st of November. For those of them who missed out the first submission can still submit, and we'll try to fit you in as much as possible for a 5 to 6 minutes of oral presentation during the summit. So that is going to be a key point to see here during the summit. Besides the lectures, the keynotes, and of course, you're going to be one of the keynote speaker there, and we'll be looking forward to your session as well, Piyush. And beside a global representation of viewpoints from clinicians, uh, from industry experts, and from global researchers who are doing hands-on work with AI. That's what the virtual global summit of Doctors AI promises.
That's great. But I want to take it further from there, and something that Samir has been championing. Datathons and some of these workshops are a great starting point, but to build that continuum, following some of these resources that Samir has put together, the neural med work, its blog, as I show over here, is very, very important. And they present a whole host of updates and resources curated. That's something that we've talked about to you from time to time. So Samir, thank you for your hard work in putting this together, and I hope people can follow it and can learn from it. And thank you for curating it for everyone. Well, another important part of that, as you come to close, is all of you have been very, very successful in this, and I hope all the viewers and the participants are going to be very, very successful in the future. How are you measuring your success? Avneesh, let's start with you. Your closing words, and how are you measuring your success?
So this concept was not in my mind before we wrote this paper, that it's important to measure success also, because I was just enjoying the journey and just enjoying enhancing my knowledge and doing some hands-on projects. But then I suddenly realized that if you have a goal, then you need to even have some KPIs and ways to measure it. My goal down the line became to impact healthcare and to improve the literacy of my fellow colleagues in this field of AI. So one of the metrics which now I plan to measure is how many people I'm able to get aware about AI and give them knowledge. So maybe that can be one of the metrics of measuring the impact. For others who are looking to get started with AI, I think even if you don't have a way to do it in the beginning, you just want to get started. Don't don't worry too much about this step particularly, because that will come along the way as you move on your journey. Everyone has a different trajectory, For example, someone will build a product, someone will just be an informed end user, someone will be a translator of technology who will also teach others. So depending on that, you will have to develop your specific metrics, some of them which we have mentioned in our paper as well, like how you can do that depending on your goal. I think that is how I take it, and how people who are getting started with AI should take it. It is important, but that should not stop you from getting started. That's all.
Samir, how about you? How are you measuring success? And last words.
Yeah, great question. I think sometimes even in medicine, in our journey, we get so bogged down by the day to day that it's hard to take a step back and think about, how far you've come or what you've accomplished. So I think you make a really great point. I think, the first step is giving yourself that time to, plan and then also step back. So we talked a lot about learning, doing a course, going to a datathon. Like, I think if you have a 6-month plan, a 1-year plan, set realistic goals. A lot of people talk about SMART goals, something that you can measure that's easy for you. Because as you show yourself success, I think that builds internal motivation and makes you feel like, okay, you know what? Even though I didn't get to all of my goals, but I was able to go to a datathon, I was able to read this newsletter once a week. And you know what? I do know a lot more than I did 6 months ago. And so what do I want to do in the next 6 months? So I think how I measure it personally is really just from talking to people and networks more than anything else. I think, some of the work I'm doing at Neural Medwork, as well as Inflective AI, which is my other company that commercializes and helps get AI products into the market, is just some of that measurement is talking to clinicians who we've worked with to see how their lives have changed by helping them, introduce AI tools into their practice. I think at the end of the day, one of the reasons I've gotten into this journey is to say, how can I help my colleagues? I still practice medicine. I still love working in the ICU and in the emergency department. And we know as clinicians, there's a lot of problems that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And one of the reasons I got interested in AI is because of that, to say, how can I help my colleagues and the patients I work with? There's got to be a better way for all these things we're seeing on the ground. And so I think for every clinician I talk to that feels the impact of AI or is grateful after a conversation we've had to say, hey, I didn't know there are tools that could do this, or I didn't know this is a framework to look at, or this is what the college says about using this tool. I think for me, those are all little steps. I think you should measure small steps in your journey, because for a lot of us, this journey of AI and healthcare as clinicians, it's going to involve us in one way or the other. I think, if you look at the adoption curves and see the information out there, AI tools are moving at a faster pace than the internet and PCs. And so all of us at some point are going to have an interaction with AI, and it's going to, touch us in some way, clinically or in our personal lives. In our personal lives, it probably always is anyways. And so I think it's taking advantage of that, being as informed as possible, and having those small measurable acts day to day with just the conversations you have with people and the tasks that you do, and then having systematic points for you to sit down and reflect, whether it's 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, whatever it is that makes sense for you in your life. So yeah, I think this is important to keep the motivation going. And thank you so much, Piyush, for the opportunity, and for all the panelists to learn from you all and interact. I'm always very grateful for that.
That's great. Anirban, I always think of go to Datathon, but make sure you take it to the finish line with a publication. That's always been one of the measures of success for me. What are the measures of success for you, and your last words?
I think, thank you, Piyush. I think the measure of success is, from an individual level, I keep looking at, am I learning something? What did I learn? Did I have fun? Very simple. I keep it very simple. I don't go back measuring, how much, and those kind of things. If I set a goal earlier on in terms of this is what I want to, deliver at the end of the year, let's say, I have a project that I want to deliver X, Y, and Z, those are, of course, much more measurable. And, we can go back and, look at, how much of those I could achieve. But like I always say, this has to have a meaning for you. and why you are doing this, and that meaning's the most important thing. You will evolve with time as you learn more and more and find your own path. But it's the journey that is more important, not really the end goal. Thank you, everyone.
That's very well said. Amit, how about you? How are you going to measure success?
So I'm going to put two wings to this. If I have to measure my personal success in my journey of AI, uh, I would say it's by how best I can keep myself updated with what's happening in AI around me. So my learning in AI started from 2018, 2019. That's since when I started getting into AI. And like most of us here in this panel, I'm still learning each day. And every day I feel there's so much more I need to learn because it's just happening too fast. And it's too fast for me to catch up. So it's my success, my personal success would be not by the number of certificates that I make, not by the number of credentials that I get in AI, but it's by by how fast and how efficiently I can keep myself updated, paced with the developments of AI, with the applications of AI to continuously improve my daily productivity, my creativity in my area of domain. And that would be my personal measure of success. And I always fall short. I always fall short, and I always feel I could learn more from the newsletters of Avneesh and Samir and from the BrainX community, and I'm still learning and trying to catch up. So that's my personal success. My second wing is the community success for me at Doctors AI, and I'll echo with what Avneesh said. Literacy has always been our primary vision. My measure of success, Piyush, is going to be when I reach out to the medical students, the faculties at a medical college, the number of my fellow colleagues that I could convince that AI is for good, keeping all the critics and everything in mind, and the other points in mind, the ethics and everything in mind, that AI is for good and AI is here to make our life good, and it's not a threat. So the numbers that I can increase in making them understand and adopt not AI, but the literacy on AI, that is a measure of success to me from the Doctors AI community. And I think we are doing this. We'll continue to do this. I think it's the sky is going to be the limit, but it's a start. And I'm really happy that over the last few months, Piyush, we had a fantastic response from the doctors in the medical community, especially here in India. About 800 doctors connected on WhatsApp with us. Samir is a part of the group, and he sees the vibe there, and in on LinkedIn. And every day we see that this vibe is growing, and that is a measure of success to me as a community leader, as a founder of Doctors AI. But I guess it's miles to go before we sleep. That's what it says. But we'll continue to do and continue to follow the path where it leads to complete literacy of the medical community on what's happening and what's coming around in the field of AI. Once again, a big thank you for having me, for inviting me, and a warm invite to all the BrainX community members. Please submit your researches at the summit. We have 2 weeks window for the late abstract. Please submit it. We'd love to hear your presentation, and please join in at the summit. Please register and join in for us. And we do look forward to Piyush's keynote very keenly as well. Once again, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Amit. Again, these are all great words. I think the biggest measure of success is just get started. And then, as Anirban said, the next is have fun, because that's how you will make your journey successful and impactful. And of course, the ultimate measure of success to me is, did we improve patient care? Did we help clinicians improve patient care? So a lot of research work still to be done. We're starting off with great goals. Thank you all for being here and sharing your thoughts. Again, if you're looking for more resources, here is a book that we published recently, which talks about different strategies for AI and healthcare applications. You can learn more through that. And of course, you're always welcome to use the BrainX community resources. All of those are for free. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, panelists. A great discussion. Hopefully, this will get many started in the journey. Till next time, take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.